Can I have a slide, please? So I want the audience to be able to see the panelists. Okay, perfect. So they are there. So as I read the names, please stand up and come on the podium. James Griffith, Managing Director, Ecosystems, Forest Solutions and Water from the World Business Council on Sustainable Development. We have Sheila Vergara, who is the Director, Biodiversity Information Management, ASEAN Center for Biodiversity. Gilles Kleitz, Project Manager Biodiversity, Natural Resources from Agence Française de Développement. Claudio Adua, Vice President, IPE, Instituto de Pesquisas Ecológicas Brasil. My Portuguese is not excellent. Andreas Obrecht, from Switzerland, Senior Policy Advisor for Biodiversity, the Swiss Federal Office for the Environment. Luis Cuello, National Commissioner of Natural Protected Areas, Mexico. Kurt Eckerstrom, sorry for the pronunciation, who is from ESRI, Count Manager Global Affairs. Nigel Crowell, Director of Secretariat, Indigenous Peoples Africa Coordinating Committee, based in South Africa. Christine Dawson is Director of Office of Ecology and Conservation, Department of State, United States of America. James Njogu. Okay. Head of Convention and Biodiversity Research at the Kenya Wildlife Service. Obviously, we could have had more people, but as I said, this is just a sample of some of the people who represent governments, NGOs, private sector, etc., who we know can have a view, can share with us a few opinions on what they think IPBES could do for them in their daily lives and what they could also do for IPBES. So as I said, we also have interaction with the audience, so none of you is actually excluded. Now, let me begin, and I will just speak on any one of you to begin with. Why not on James Njogu? Tell the audience, what could be the benefits of IPBES for your everyday activity?
Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay. Yes, thank you for the question. Really, IPBES is a very important tool for Kenya and for Kenya Wildlife Service. This is a thing that will assist to generate knowledge, assist in various assessment on biodiversity and ecosystem services, assist in policy formulation, very critical, and as well as capacity building. We strongly support the motion 154 that IOCN has put across, because IPBES is really very important across the board, and particularly bringing together all the players and various stakeholders in policy, in conservation, managers, and even users. And South Africa equally developed a policy which Kenya has supported, that is 153, which tries to dwell on capacity building. That is the fourth component of IPBES. Really the benefit to go well beyond the expectation, and far much beyond perhaps even IPCC. Thank you.
Sheila, what about you?
good morning. As a staff of the ASEAN Center for Biodiversity, we actually serve the information and needs of the ASEAN member states. So from Brunei all the way to Vietnam, the member states. And the knowledge that they actually need when they engage with these governments is that they need very basic knowledge on ecosystem services and the dynamics of biodiversity and how ecosystem services change with biodiversity. They need current information, and looking at the knowledge products earlier this morning, I think that the evolution of the knowledge products is a good solution to that. And also, they would need knowledge and proof of the limitless relationship between biodiversity and ecosystem services. Knowledge that this is not a one-to-one association, it may be one-to-many or many-to-many association. As they do their decisions in policy development. And also, they also need the knowledge of the extent of biodiversity beyond the geopolitical boundaries as critical, since it's not, it is at this level that governance engagements are being done. And being in the ASEAN region, connectivity patterns are very important. And they need to understand the knowledge, not only in terrestrial, but also on marine. And I think also the Flyway project is an invitation of progress towards identifying connectivity patterns. And they should also be equipped with the knowledge to understand that when the connectivity patterns are interrupted or stopped because of some human interventions, then they should understand the implications of that. And also, there's a really big gap in knowledge on the difference between natural ecosystems and rehabilitated ecosystems. And hopefully the knowledge and distinction between the two should be made in the region. Thank you.
Pass the microphone to your neighbor. Jill, as a representative of a funding agency, what can IPBES do for you? Do you need IPBES to give away your money? Or?
We do need a science-based decision on allocating overseas development money, for sure. I think there are a few key areas where we must make progress in availing operational knowledge to policymakers in the field of impact on biodiversity. So, or as a development bank, providing support to developing countries in sort of implementing greener paths for development, if I may say. I think one of the key knowledge areas is compared ecological impacts of policy options. How can we compare different types of agricultural policy, of infrastructural policy, even of urban sort of policy on their impact to biodiversity? So moving from an analysis of where biodiversity is, of its dynamics, and so on, I think we need as well to embrace really the policy options that are at hand to especially developing countries and compare their impact on biodiversity and provide very practical very practical information on what you're going to gain, what you're going to lose if you choose that policy or that one. And I think this type of information is often not available or not formatted in a way that helps the dialogue, for example, between a development bank like AFD and the governments or the national NGOs or the sectoral private actors in the basic work.
Okay. Now, let me move to Luis. As somebody responsible for protected areas in your country, what kind of knowledge is critical for you that IPBES could provide, you think would make your job easier?
Right. Thank you very much to invite me. I would like to put on the table two critical points. Recently, Mexico concluded our gap analysis, and we found that more than 46% of our territory is well conserved. This information can also to provide a strategy to protect and to take care around our natural resources. One of the most important things that we must do is to explain to the people and to explain to the different communities that we are a mega diverse country, and each of our ecosystem in well conserved status must provide to the future different ecosystem services. And we need all our ecosystem. We need our dry lands, we need our wetlands, we need tropical forests, we need our coral reef in well conserved status. And the other thing that is very, very important for us is to identify the different use of the biodiversity that we must provide the best information to use this biodiversity. Most of the people that is living in our best conserved ecosystem are poor people, and they have needs, and we need to provide them the best information to use the biodiversity. This is one of the most challenges that my government has at the future.
Christine, the United States of America, with all the scientists it has, with all the money it has, surely why does it need IPBES?
Oh, well, absolutely. And I think that's one of the reasons that the United States is such a strong supporter of getting IPBES up and running and functioning. Because as Abraham pointed out, or as the people that monitoring what it says point out, that it is not really an IPCC for biodiversity, because biodiversity and ecosystem services are so much more complex. And one of the big challenges that we've had, and I come from a foreign policy perspective, so I can't really address the work program, but in trying to get a handle on how to do the work program is finding a way to get this incredibly intricate, complex relationship between biodiversity and ecosystems in a fashion that even scientists can grapple with. I think the scientists in the United States that I've talked to, and other members of the United States team have talked to, they're very excited about it because it's an opportunity to come together in a way they haven't been able to up to now, and also to try to find ways to communicate with decision makers in different fields, with foreign ministers, with agriculture ministers. They're trying it on their own, but this gives them a platform that in many respects will not only strengthen their own abilities, but give them the tools, hopefully, to convey these very intricate, complex ideas to the people that are making decisions.
Thank you. James, as a representative of the business community, so what kind of knowledge do you think would be critical for your community? And in what way IPBES would help that?
Okay, so I work for a business organization that represents very big companies. And big companies have big impacts and big dependence on biodiversity and ecosystem service. So the degradation creates lots of risk. and companies are needing to assess and manage that risk much more effectively in the past. And that need to do that is going to be accelerated as we move towards integrated accounting and reporting, as the social and ecological externalities start to be brought onto the balance sheets of companies. So there's a lot of interest in the potential of IPBES, and I only call it a potential because I haven't seen it deliver anything yet. I know it's taken a long, long time.
Just been established.
Yeah, I know, but it's taken a long, long time, and business negotiations take a long time, but generally not that long. But I have a lot of hope for it because, I mean, now the concept is better data in means that better decisions are made, and you get better profits, you get better outcomes for business, you get better outcomes for biodiversity, you get better outcomes for science. So WBCSD, I think, is being represented by either our regional network partners, sometimes some of our member companies. I have a colleague from Hitachi here. We've gone along to these meetings at the prompting of IUCN. I'm glad we have, to wave the business voice or the business flag, because I think business is an important stakeholder. I think when it starts delivering, I think it will be an important user of information, perhaps even a contributor. What always caught my imagination is that most global companies, in terms of managing their carbon emissions, use the IPCC reports. The assessment reports is a very important set of information to drive business decisions, and I'm hoping what will come out of IPBES will be, I guess, pathways to information that can very much drive business decision making. It's obviously a much more complicated set of data that's being captured, but I mean, just listening to Jane's presentation about IUCN's knowledge network, it is quite amazing how much knowledge there is there, and making it easier for biodiversity and science managers or users to access that information. That could be a real major contribution. So again, we've been waiting for this for a long time. I think I heard somewhere that it's been linked to the Archie targets. I think you'll see global companies starting to use the Archie targets also as a business planning tool. We've released a set of case studies here that show how businesses can contribute to those targets. So again, companies with a big biodiversity and ecosystem footprint are going to use the Archie targets as a way of measuring their own progress. So I guess we've been a marginal player, but I think we may end up being a major user. So really very supportive of the process going forward, and again, potentially quite a significant contributor of information perhaps. Thank you.
Okay, you did say that not only you would be a user, but also a potential contributor. I guess both knowledge and money, right?
So, knowledge is money, and we probably already paid through the taxes that have been recycled through government. So how many times do you have to pay? Now, on knowledge particularly, you know, I'm really from the forestry industry, and the amount of data that companies have on their forest assets and the biodiversity values is truly extraordinary, because these are commercial assets at risk. We need to know a lot about them. But yeah, perhaps a funder as well.
Anyway, so in terms of indeed many stakeholders who are interested to potentially contribute, share their knowledge with IPBES, let me ask Claudio, coming from an organization in Brazil, how do you see your kind of organization contributing to the work of IPBES?
Okay, thank you for the invitation. Although I come from an NGO, it's a science-based NGO, very much connected to science solutions. And I, honestly, I went to graduate school years ago at the University of Florida to work with a group that was starting conservation biology. And for me it was a fantastic experience, because I was seeing for the first time a group that was trying to answer questions. The main question was, our theme of research is disappearing. What should we do? So I talk about practical science, science that will solve real questions from the real world. And also, in recent, 2 years ago, Brazil started a process of changing its forestry code, which is ending now, and with a major change in the forestry code, and the science sector was avoiding answering questions at this point. And the legislator was asking, you have to help me here because I don't know what to do. So what I'm saying is that there is this gap. I mean, the decision maker needs to take decisions at that moment. We cannot wait. And the researchers should be answering the questions they make the best way they can. It's the best we can do now. You can always protect your reputation by saying, this is the best knowledge we have now. But in my view, what we need is organizations that can answer the questions that will help the policymaker. Then IPBES is fantastic.